In the quiet valley of Elah, two great armies stood poised for a conflict that would echo through the ages. On one hill, the disciplined ranks of the Israelites watched with growing apprehension. On the opposite ridge, the formidable Philistine forces gathered, their confidence bolstered by a champion unlike any other. From their lines emerged a figure of terrifying proportions, a giant of a man named Goliath of Gath. Clad in heavy bronze armor from head to toe and wielding a spear with a shaft as thick as a weaver's beam, he was a walking fortress, a seemingly invincible warrior. For 40 long days his voice, a thunderous roar, boomed across the valley, mocking the God of Israel and challenging any man to single combat. Fear was a cold blanket that settled over the Israelite camp. Not a single soldier, from the most seasoned veteran to the youngest recruit, dared to answer the giant's defiant call. The fate of two nations hung in the balance, a stalemate held in place by one man's terrifying presence. Into this tense and fearful atmosphere walked a young shepherd named David, sent by his father Jesse to bring supplies to his older brothers on the front lines. He was not a soldier, and his hands were more accustomed to a shepherd's staff and a harp than to a sword and shield. But as he arrived at the camp, he heard the giant's blasphemous taunts and saw the paralyzing fear that gripped the hearts of his countrymen. A righteous anger stirred within him. While others saw an unstoppable giant, David saw a mortal man defying the living God. His faith was unshakable, forged in the solitude of the wilderness, where he had defended his flock from lions and bears. He knew that the same divine power that had delivered him before would not abandon him now. With a conviction that stunned the battle-hardened soldiers and even King Saul himself, David declared that he would face the Philistine champion. He refused the king's heavy armor, finding it cumbersome and unfamiliar. Instead, he chose the simple tools he knew best. The moment of truth arrived. David walked out onto the valley floor, a solitary, youthful figure against the backdrop of a colossal, heavily armed warrior. In his hand, he held only his staff and his sling. As he approached the stream that cut through the valley, he carefully selected 5 smooth stones, the humble ammunition for an epic confrontation. Goliath, seeing the approaching shepherd boy, bellowed with laughter and contempt. He felt insulted that the Israelites would send a mere youth to fight him, as if he were a dog to be driven off with sticks. The giant cursed David by his guards and promised to feed his flesh to the birds of the air. But David's reply was not one of fear, but of unwavering faith. He declared that he came not with a sword or a spear, but in the name of the Lord of hosts. With a sudden burst of speed, David ran toward the giant. He placed a stone in his sling and began to whirl it with practiced skill. The air hummed as the sling spun faster and faster, a blur of motion culminating in a single, decisive release. The small stone flew through the air with incredible speed and precision, a tiny projectile on a collision course with destiny. It struck Goliath squarely on his forehead, the only vulnerable spot in his formidable armor. The giant staggered, his eyes wide with disbelief, before crashing to the ground with a thunderous thud that shook the earth. Silence fell over the valley, a moment of stunned disbelief from both armies. The impossible had happened. The invincible champion was slain. Seeing their hero fall, a wave of panic and terror washed over the Philistine ranks. They broke formation and fled in a disorganized rout. A triumphant roar erupted from the Israelite camp as they surged forward, chasing their fleeing enemies and securing a miraculous and decisive victory. The story of that day would be told for generations, a timeless testament to the idea that courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph of faith over it, and that even the greatest of giants can be brought down by the smallest of heroes.